boy, isn't this convenient, because they are talking about a second wave that may be worse than the first. And let's welcome in infectious disease expert Rick Heller. Hey, Rick, welcome to the Mark Blazer Show. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you. Can I mention I'm expert in disease spread, and I'm not a physician. So when it comes to infectious disease, I kind of have had them and I know how they work, but I'm not an expert there.
I gotcha. Okay. So, all right. So this second wave that they're actually talking about right now, yes. Some are predicting that this could be worse than the first wave. There's two things for me there. One, well, the biggest thing for me is we haven't gotten past the first wave yet. I mean, it's weird to start even talking about the second wave. Is it too soon to even really talk about it or not?
Well, I've been talking about it for a couple of months. When I saw Wuhan turn down, it fit our model. Our model, as you may know, is about humidification indoors, and particularly in commercial buildings. Commercial buildings exchange their air, and it's the moisture outside. And nobody really thinks about moisture outside except relative humidity, and it never really does make a lot of sense because it's very temperature dependent. But there really is a certain amount of moisture and it exchanges here. So we saw that Wuhan actually settled down because they never had any more dry events outside. Well, Texas, Ohio, New Orleans got it. New Orleans is a damp place, and they got it right during Mardi Gras, and that just, lit like a, campfire in a dry forest. So there is a second round. I am fairly certain, for our models show it, and unfortunately it's going to come along with flu, and coming with flu is going to mean, respiratory diseases. Flu is obviously a very big killer and very debilitating. So that's
right.
What they're talking about.
So let me ask you, Rick, and I remember from when I had you on a little while ago, we talked about humidity is not the coronavirus friend, and it actually will kind of slow it down or even tamp it out, if you will, based on, I believe, what you said, if I recollect correctly. Yeah. Is heat also something that is not the coronavirus friend? Like, for instance, the desert or just summer heat in general across the U.S.?
Heat is correlated. It's not causal. It's just correlated. So it turns out that in hot weather, it can absorb a lot of moisture into the air, and so that moisture is the thing that we exchange when we exchange air. But you can also have dry, as you point out in Phoenix. You can have dry, hot days. So, and there are other things that explain disease in dry, hot environments stay dry and hot. We're talking more about environments that shift. Like Ohio, you're going to have sunny, moist days, you're going to have sunny, dry days, and then you're going to have, some maybe cool days. So, anyway, all that adds up to kind of a little bit more of the reverse. It's not the virus is slowed down by humidity, though it is. It's more like it's accelerated by dryness indoors. And then there's another factor when we sleep at night, which is when we spend most of the time in one place in our house. That dryness we give up in dry environments when your home is dry. We give up in every exhale about 20 to 30 times the amount of moisture we get back when we inhale. So when your lungs dry out, they call upon your bloodstream to deliver water, and moisture in there, keeps your lungs from being susceptible. If you're dehydrated, you won't have the water, your lungs now dry out. And there's a disease called cystic fibrosis, and it is effectively dehydration related, and they, among other things, get a lot of pulmonary infections and certainly susceptible to flu, very susceptible.
I'm talking to Rick Heller, who is expert on infectious disease spread, and once this second wave hits, we're going to be dealing with COVID-19. We're going to be dealing with the regular flu, and how likely is it that these two could team up and form a crazy hybrid strand, yet a third?
Well, that I could say it cannot happen because they don't work that way. But I did see some reports where somebody with the flu then got COVID, and the flu just disappeared. And I don't know what that meant, but maybe it was overshadowed in its symptoms, or COVID just beat it out, because all these viruses are just trying to get a hold of the host cell. They go into the cell, they steal the replicator, that makes more human cells, and then they make more themselves. They explode the cell. It's just an ugly story. But then all these other viruses are now in your bloodstream or wherever to go do that to a whole bunch of cells. So it's an epidemic in your body. And they they really have nothing to do with each other. Flu is a completely different virus. It's an envelope virus, is coronavirus. But, there's a lot of expertise that would have a hard time fighting the two getting together. But
right.
If they get together in your body, my goodness, that could be just awful.
Yeah, and Governor DeWine here in Ohio, Rick, he has given May 1st as a date we're going to begin to slowly reopen. In your estimation, based on your expertise with, infectious disease spread, is it way too early for anybody to be opening, or is it time to kind of start moving forward, given, it's the time, if you will, the time of year that we start having a chance to at least, fare the best against the coronavirus?
So I looked at Ohio. I mean, I've looked at all the states and the regions, and Ohio had a what we call a green May, and green just means a lot of moisture in the air. So all that exchange in commercial buildings and all the seepage that gets into the house is all nice and moist. So that will count against coronavirus, and we saw that throughout the month of May last year, I believe. So, it's hard to forecast that, as more than a few days, and even though they have 10 days on these weather apps. But, it's conceivable that, things could settle down, or it'll have a harder time spreading. In fact, it is so infectious. It is incredible. And every source of infection that I've found, we're always on these red and yellow days. We have an app, by the way. It's a free app. We don't want your email address. We don't have advertisements. It's called Wello Watch. And it's just one word. It's on iPhone and Android, and it'll show you a map of the world. We update it every hour for what indoor humidity would be like in your area. So, and one thing to know is that everybody in the Columbus area has pretty much the same humidity, certainly in commercial buildings, as any other. There's very few circumstances where it would be different. So we're all affected the same way, and we're all just as susceptible.
Rick Heller, who is an expert on infectious disease spread. Thank you very much, Rick, for joining me today. I appreciate it. Be well.